it in. We broke down the door, we came to win. TLA Season 4, it's a whole new game. We the agents of change. Whole new scope with a whole new range. It didn't exist, so we built our own lane. We all knew the risk, it's a cold ass game. But first and foremost, we reppin' the fans because we nothing but fans living out our dreams. Crossing the pond with these 32 teams. There's only one road and there's only 5 kings.
Welcome to 32 Kings Road, hosted by the League Ambassadors. I'm Ambassador Kenny Ken, and it is my pleasure to be here today with my brothers. This is episode 83 of our podcast. As a reminder, you can follow us everywhere on social media. Our handle is @TheLeagueAM. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Also, please visit and check out our website, theleagueam.com. Please pay special attention to our online blog spot, Diplomatic Immunity, the place where fans can talk your shit. Also, please subscribe to and rate our YouTube channel, League Ambassadors. On today's show, we're going to recap the NFL Conference Championship games, both in the AFC and the NFC. We're going to continue our NFL's Bottom 100, as well as hand out some prescriptions for the sick teams. In this instance, we've got the losers from this weekend, the Titans and the Packers, as well as a special prescription for the Baltimore Ravens.
I don't know how fucking special it's going to be.
But first, Red-O, what you sipping on, sir?
As always, I'm sipping on a little Oak Heart. But I am sipping on the fact that I want to thank the 49ers and I want to thank the Lord for small favors. Because
we don't believe anything.
Everything after this point is a lie.
No, for real. If I had to listen to a week full of radio people, TV personalities, and Super Bowl commentators comparing Mahomes to Aaron Rodgers, I would have took a 9mm and off my fucking self. And because it would have been between those two. He's the new one, he's the old one, and I can't stand that motherfucker. So, like I said, thank the Lord for small favors.
I thought he was going to say, thank the Lord, because I called San Francisco being a really good team at the beginning of the season, but maybe he'll say that later on in the show.
Hey, man. What's already known don't need to be said.
Look at him. Look at him demonstrating discretion. I'm sipping on progress in sports, specifically women as coaches in male sports. We now have a new full-time female coach in Major League Baseball, Alyssa Nakken. The San Francisco Giants have hired her. The NBA, which is ahead of the curve on most things, they have now 11 female assistant coaches. And then actually one of the Super Bowl participants, which we've seen her commercials
a million times.
Where are those Inspire Change commercials? But we'll get to that.
Have you seen her highlights of her playing football, though?
No.
There's a video out there. She was a quarterback. She was nice.
Katie Sowers?
Yeah.
Yeah, Katie Sowers, offensive assistant for the San Francisco 49ers. So it's just really good to see progress in sports, particularly when you talk about women being able to coach men. Kev, what you sipping on, sir?
Gentlemen, I'm sipping on this berry drink thing from Sweet Green. Not drinking alcohol. As you know what, in the last two shows, we'll get trashed. I wanted to talk about history, but you know what? Let's talk about that Tyler Perry movie. No, I'm joking. All right, so no. The universe is talking
inside joke.
Yeah. No, Tyler Perry can wait for a fireside chat.
Listen.
So yeah, keep it history related. January 20th, 1985, which was 35 years ago yesterday. The San Francisco 49ers smashed the Miami Dolphins in Super Bowl 19, winning their second title as an organization. They leaned on their top-rated defense to shut down an AFC team with a dynamic passing game. And if that sounds familiar, it's because that's the exact same situation the 49ers are in this year against the Chiefs. So, yeah, I thought that was cool.
All right, Dad, what you sipping on, sir?
Continue this Tyler Perry comment. Super inside joke. I'm sipping on water because I got to cleanse myself out. But what I would like to sip on or discuss today, I'm sure two of the people in this room can't wait to talk about this. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm about to get y'all the floor in a minute. Y'all can go at it. But last week, it was reported that Houston Astros were found guilty of orchestrating a cheating scheme in 2017 to start. Players and staff use a center field camera at their home, and they will record opposing teams' catchers' signals. Meanwhile, while this is all going on, the Red Sox are also under investigation for something similar. They've already fired their manager, Alex Cora, who was on the staff of Houston when they were doing these. And most recently, almost every day something new comes out. We've seen accusations and hilarious to me, I think, hilarious videos of the Astros.
They are now
covering up what seems to be a buzzer or some sort of electrical device. And they use that in conjunction with trash cans to steal signs during the World Series. So the Major League Baseball has suspended the manager, A.J. Hinch. GM has been suspended for a year. They lost the first and second round pick in both 20 and 21, and they were fined the maximum amount allowed by the MLB Constitution, which is $5 million. Now, so far, no players have been suspended. To me, this is the biggest scandal in sports since the Black Sox scandal, which was about 100 years ago. My question is, I have a few questions. Was that enough? The Major League Baseball commissioner, Manfred, does have the power to vacate championships. There's an article in their constitution where he can do that. But will he? And what do you guys think should happen, Dodger fans?
He won't vacate it because that could have already been done. This suspend managers for a fucking year shit is bullshit because all they did was fire the motherfucker. Like the team, they didn't get any punishment. $5 million is with half a day at the park. That's one day.
If that.
Yeah, but some of these people don't get, they may get 10 people, but they already sold those seats, so it don't matter. That they literally did not get punished. The players, when you show these videos of Altuve running in, when he
don't grab my shirt.
Right, that shit is insane.
Or did you see? I forget what the player was at the podium, and it was like, "Tell us about the pitch, walk us through." And he was like, "I think I knew what was coming." Like they just arrogant with the shit.
Yeah, and it's like, wait a second. So the players are going to go scot-free. So now all the players know is we can do this amongst ourselves. We don't need the fucking manager. They went scot-free, so why not? Why can't they do it again? It worked. Fuck it. They still got a title. They still got contracts. They did not get suspended. They didn't lose $1. They didn't lose a thing. The only teams that lost were probably the Yankees.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for sure, the Los Angeles Dodgers. And we got nothing. All we got was hopefully it doesn't happen again. It's a travesty, and like there were people arguing about the steroid. This is way worse. Steroids, that's more about recovery than anything. Steroids didn't help Barry Bonds hit home runs. That motherfucker was knocking him out the park way before then. He just recovered better. He was a Hall of Famer. he wasn't knocking
Let's notate this moment in time.
He was a Hall of Famer before he took a steroid.
Yeah.
Hey, now get your shit off, man.
Those doubles became home runs. Okay.
Hey, Dev, real quick, before Kenyon writes
That's
his
recovery.
version of Between the World and Me, we gonna let you have this, brother. It's real quick.
No. Let me finish. Whatever the fuck you got going, let me finish.
Omar, you took your shot. Get back on it.
Hey, turn 30 first. So they are trying to argue as if this is not worse. when this is miles worse. They stole a World Series. They stole a World Series. And they got off scot-free.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, so
See what happens when Les isn't here?
So, question in which you can also parlay into how you feel about this, Kenya. I saw I think it was today that there was some sort of vote or something that the vacation of the that you could try to push for the Dodgers to win those 2 World Series. Did you see this?
The LA City Council did that.
Yes.
Yeah, the City Council. I mean,
They're
that's
supporting the team.
that's ceremonial. As a fan, I've never been in this position before where like you feel, and I think it's a unique position where you legit feel cheated. And there's nothing, because the thing about sports, I think why we all love sports is that it gets settled on the field. It gets settled on the court. It gets settled in the game. So for them to do anything else like vacate and award it to the Dodgers, like it wouldn't even feel right.
Yeah.
So it's weird. All I can really say
I don't
is
want the title. I think it should be vacated, though.
I apologize somewhat to Clayton Kershaw. I apologize to you, Darvish. I apologize.
He
You
needs
need
a-
all
he
the
needs a
apology.
big apology.
I apologize to, the bullpen, because the thing, particularly in that Houston Astros series, I mean, the scores were ridiculous. And what does that say about our offense?
Because
that we
we
were
were
able
right.
to match them
And we
run
didn't know.
for run.
They
And
also
didn't even,
weren't tripping because they knew what was coming. Like, they can have a couple. We're gonna get on the back end.
Let the motherfuckers have it.
But where it really leaves me, there are a couple of things. One, I wonder what the outrage would be if Major League Baseball was 75% black instead of 75% white. I also wonder, or I don't wonder, but and I've said this before just amongst us, like in our chat, everything that can be shaken will be shaken. And so institutions as we know them are being challenged and in fact are being destroyed. And this is just another example of it. So what does that say, in terms of the bigger picture? I don't know. But I mean, it's hard to have confidence in a league when you have something happen, like this. But,
There are some people who say that the MLB is going easy because they can't take too many more scandals.
And it's ironic that today there was a vote, a Hall of Fame vote, and it's the 8th year of eligibility for both Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, and they didn't get in. They didn't meet the 75% threshold, 60% for Barry, 61% for Roger Clemens. And, I mean, that stark hypocrisy just rings loud, especially given what we're talking about right now.
So, Kev, really quick before we move on, how do you think this sort of scandal compares to what Kenyon was talking about, like Pete Rose gambling on baseball, one of the greatest hitters ever not being allowed, and Barry Bonds, was a Hall of Famer before the steroids, and essentially they look like they're not going to let them in, but there's nothing really going to be done to this particular scandal.
Yeah, it's disgusting. I think because it's more of a team, team's involvement, organization's involvement, multiple players doing the same thing. Like, granted, Pete Rose, Barry Bonds, great players in their own right, but did they necessarily dictate the outcome of a World Series? No. And just while you guys were talking, it made me think of how other organizations, other institutions, sports institutions treat situations where players have been accused of doing something wrong, i.e. Reggie Bush, right? Whatever he did or didn't do off the field had no real impact on the outcome of the game, yet he's banned from like every record book. When they had the Heisman winners on the field last week, he's not there. It's like they're treating him like he never existed, even though what he did not impact the outcome of the game. When here, it's almost like MLB's just trying to just do away with it so they can get on with the upcoming season. And even when they interviewed the players, it's like the Astros players are just talking about this like they weren't involved. Like, hey, well, we're just trying to keep our head down and stay positive and move on. Like, no, we have video evidence of these motherfuckers cheating. Granted, yes, they fired the guys on the higher up, but I feel like the players have to be penalized in this, man. Otherwise, they're just separating baseball from the fan base that it was already losing to begin with.
And I think it also this also highlights a dynamic and a discussion that started with baseball, but is now, and we'll talk about it later in the show, permeating into other sports, and that's the involvement of numbers and analytics. Because with analytics and numbers comes technology. And with technology comes this very sophisticated and elaborate scheme. And I think it forces the conversation again to be had. How far do you allow numbers and by extension technology to permeate sports, a very physical, very, human element, and you incorporate this intelligence and what the results or what the consequences of that will be?
Next.
I was like,
I
you
didn't
ready?
know. I didn't know I was throwing my own alley hoop. I'm sorry. Let's get
Just gotta catch it, dog.
let's continue our series on the NFL's bottom 100. Today we're going to cover the Green Bay Packers, the team in Washington, Jacksonville real quick, and then the Minnesota Vikings. We'll start with Omar's second favorite team, the Green Bay Packers. I'm sure you had fun finding the three worst players in that franchise's history, and as an extension part of our bottom 100. Again, just as a reminder, they need to be in the team at least 3 years and or had 16 starts. Omar, who's your number 3?
Number 3 is Jamal Reynolds, defensive end from Florida State, number 10th overall, 2001. This was GM Ron Wolf's last first-round pick as general manager. It just turned out to be his worst first-round pick as general manager. They moved up 7 spots in the draft by trading backup quarterback Matt Hasselbeck to Seattle to ensure that they had a shot at Reynolds. He signed for $9.5 million 5-year contract that included a $4 million signing bonus. He was an explosive All-American who was projected to be a pass-rushing demon, which I read him being described as in college more than one time. Like, that's what he was in college. So it wasn't as if that they were reaching. This was a guy who was supposed to be, based on his college, a pass-rushing demon in the NFL. Problem was, he was 6'3", 260 pounds. And he lacked the strength for his college numbers to translate to the NFL game. So he had, as soon as he got to the league and he started getting bullied, he suffered a knee injury. He suffered back injuries. And he never started a game. They went up 7 spots, and he never started a game. Recorded just 3 sacks, 16 tackles, and 18 regular season contests in Green Bay. Never played for another team after 3 years.
NFL wasn't for him.
Not for you.
It's funny how body types change, too. 6'3", 260, that actually doesn't sound that impressive physically.
It should change in 2001, right?
Especially at defensive end. Yeah.
So, and that was his last first-round pick, which was a failure.
You got Clowney, who's 6'5",
Right.
270.
Exactly.
You got running backs who's 6'3", now, right? So, number 2 is Rich Campbell, their first quarterback that they drafted out of California in 1981. Selected 6th overall in 81. He did not pan out like the second quarterback they drafted from California. He was touted as one of the top quarterback prospects in the 81 draft. He was 6'4", 224 pounds. He's the classic mode of the quarterback. Intelligence, skills. He was the heir apparent for Lynn Dickey. Fucking Lynn Dickey. But his career never materialized, even though he was touted out of college. Again, never started a game in 4 seasons. Over that span, he played in just 7 regular season games and threw 3 touchdown passes compared to 9 interceptions.
Trash.
He didn't even attempt to pass in 82 or 83.
Trash.
Yes. Number 1. Tony Mandarich.
Oh.
he might be.
We might be checking in with him. We might be checking in with him in a couple of weeks.
Exactly, because he's already considered by NFL.com the second biggest bust of all time.
or one.
We'll see what the league ambassadors have to say about that.
They said he was the most hyped college lineman in NFL history heading into the 1989 draft. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated that year and was considered the best O-line prospect ever. He was dubbed the Incredible Bulk. Then, a year later, they put him back on the cover, dubbed the Incredible Bust. Even then, it makes it worse. Came out later, he admitted that he was 6'5", 311 pounds, that he was on steroids. Which makes it even a more egregious bust because you still couldn't play. Before he signed, he had a lengthy holdout to begin his career, and it was only ready about a week before the season began. He only lasted 3 seasons with the Packers before he was released. The worst thing about the pick was not the talent, not the excitement that was behind it. It was Barry Sanders, Deion Sanders. You decided not to draft instead of him.
White
Pick a
privilege.
Sanders.
Say that again.
White privilege.
One more time.
Kevin, you got the team in Washington, and apparently you couldn't even find suckers that met the 3-year or the 16 start criteria.
It was a struggle. And I mean, I'm talking about I had to pass up on Albert Haynesworth and Andre Johnson, not the wide receiver, but the lineman, who I think most Skins fans would say they were by far the 2 worst human beings to play, at least play for the Skins. We both know who the worst person is in that organization, but I'm going to kick it off with a gentleman that does meet the criteria. And he is wide receiver Taylor Jacobs, drafted in the second round
Florida.
by his former coach at Florida,
Steve
Steve Spurrier, who then was in DC. Jacobs had 30 catches in 38 games, played 3 seasons, met the criteria. And in that wonderful time span, he scored just 1 touchdown. And if the Skins were looking to, get some talent on the receiving end, they could have drafted Anquan Bolden, who went about 10 to 12 picks later. They could have drafted just Hall of Famer on the field, off the field. He's a nightmare. Jason Witten, who is going to be maybe top 5, top 10 tight ends of all time. Coming in second might be a surprise to some, given his name, but let's not forget where his career started. The Skins drafted out of Michigan, 4th overall pick in 1992, the Heisman, Desmond Howard.
Facts.
So the Skins were afraid that the Packers would take him with their 5th pick. So these dumb fucks traded their 2 first-round picks, the 6th and the 28th, and then their 3rd-round pick in order to get the 4th-round pick. And in return, Desmond Howard gave them 1 touchdown return, 66 catches, 5 receiving touchdowns in 3 seasons, and all 5 of those catches were in his last year in Washington. But what made matters worse is if you remember, the Skins traded above the Packers to get him when he ended up going to Green Bay just 2 years later.
And doing what?
And with the Packers, he not only had his best season as a returner, but he won a Super Bowl and actually scored a return touchdown in that Super Bowl.
He was the Super Bowl MVP.
And he was indeed the Super Bowl MVP. So I think this actually says more about the Washington football team than it does Desmond Howard.
Yes.
But based on criteria, this was an awful pick for them in terms of production.
Yeah.
And last but not least, I had a plethora of quarterbacks to choose from, but none was worse than Mr. Heath Shuler, who was the 3rd overall pick out of Tennessee in 1994.
Thank you.
In 19 games, he threw 13 touchdowns, 19 interceptions. He ended up losing his job to Gus Frerotte, who was actually drafted in that same draft. I feel like the Skins have a habit of these kind of things happening to the quarterbacks they take with their first pick. He had an overall career passer rating of 53.4.
Jesus.
In 2004, he was ranked as the 4th biggest NFL bust in history. Updated version of that list by NFL Network has him at number 9.
Still top 10, baby.
Still top 10.
Oh,
And
strong.
he ain't number 10. And good news for Mr. Schuler, though, is that he was so bad at football, he ended up getting elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in his home state of North Carolina. So life did not end well for him. Well, didn't end too bad for him, but his NFL career did. And he is by far the worst. Based on this criteria, because Albert Hainsworth has something to say about this list, Heath Schuler is the worst player in Skins history.
Well, given the state of our current politics, it's debatable as to whether or not his life
That's right. It turned out well.
turned out well.
Say that again.
we won't spend too much time on the Jags, mainly because we had an episode where we talked about both the Jags and the Texans and their biggest bust. But for the purposes of this discussion, definitely want to special shout outs. Side note to Laurent Robinson and Jerry Porter. If you remember, Jerry Porter built up a bunch of stats with the Raiders. Jacksonville jumped out there, gave him $60 million, and he was cut after 1 year.
Jesus.
But we definitely want to acknowledge the worst Jacksonville Jaguar, Blaine Gabbert, record of 5-22. Interceptions to picks. He had 22 touchdowns, 24 picks over 4 or 5 years. Derek Harvey is definitely on that list. He's number 2. But there was one we didn't mention, and I definitely put him as 3, and I give him the nickname Snow White Privilege, Mr. Matt Jones.
I haven't heard Snow White
Mr.
privilege.
Matt Jones. Mr. Matt Jones was drafted out of Arkansas, and if you remember, at Arkansas, he was a quarterback. And Jacksonville came out of nowhere, blew Mel Kiper's hair off his head, and took him in the first round at 21. Okay? But they took him and was like, we don't want you to be a quarterback, which you were at Arkansas. We want you to be a wide receiver. Why? Because you're 6'6", you run a 4. He ran a 4.4 at the combine. So they said, no, we got designs on you being a wide receiver.
Sound like something the Raiders would do, but Les ain't here.
Now here's the thing. If you wanted a wide receiver at 21, you could have taken Roddy White.
Wow.
If you wanted a quarterback at 21, you know who you could have taken? You could have taken Aaron Rodgers.
Wow.
But instead, you take the white quarterback at Arkansas and say, you're going to be a receiver. And he delivered them pedestrian numbers, and he only played for 3 seasons. Why? Again, his name is Snow White Privilege. Multiple cocaine possessions.
Wow. You know, pedestrian is such a sad word.
So, Matt Jones, you're number 3 on that list.
Snow White because of cocaine.
Ah, there we go. All right.
Took me a
Dev.
minute.
Dev has the Vikings.
Yeah, a lot of what you just said comes up in my number 2 pick. That was a 2005 draft, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Foreshadowing.
But before that, let's take it to the 2011 draft, taken 13th overall. Florida State's very own by the Minnesota Vikings, Christian Ponder.
Wow.
Trash. For
Basura.
sure. Another one that blew Mel Kiper's head off.
who was projected to go in the second round, but Minnesota was like, nah, B,
we got this.
We're gonna jump up to 13 to go get him. I mean, they didn't trade anything, but that's what they took with their 13th pick.
Right?
Hey, listen, I understand.
That's actually funny.
So
That's funny.
he did show some promise in his rookie year, but he followed that up with some surefire duds.
Stinkers.
In the 4 years he was there, he only threw for 6,600 yards, 38 touchdowns, 36 interceptions. And anytime as a starting quarterback you are benched for Matt Castle, and then they bring in Josh Johnson to put a fire under your ass,
I remember that.
you are fucking trash.
Disgusting.
Number 2.
Mhm.
Now we're in the 2005 draft with the 7th pick. The Minnesota Vikings take Troy Williamson, receiver.
Ooh.
So the reason why...
Which pick?
Seventh.
Seventh.
South Carolina.
Yep, he was the heir apparent to replace Randy Moss, which means they already set him up for failure because ain't no replacing a Hall of Famer. He was drafted for his speed to take the top off of defenses, which he was actually able to do because he was very fast. The problem with that is he wasn't able to catch the bitch once she got there.
Again, sound like something the Raiders would do, but Les ain't here.
So in 3 seasons, he caught 87 balls, but that was only 47% of his targets, which means he had hella dropsies.
Oh, wow.
1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns in total. Now, again, going back to 2005 draft, if you wanted a wide receiver, Roddy White was there.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you just wanted the number 1 overall player, that kind of, well, you can kind of take Aaron Rodgers out of that. But like DeMarcus Ware was there.
Mhm.
And just to show you how trash this wide receiver draft was, you had Braylon Edwards, Mike Williams, Matt Jones, and Mark Clayton, Kev.
Ooh.
That shit was yuck.
Yuck.
Number 1.
Number 1.
This does not meet the criteria at all, but there's no way this is not the number 1. I'm sorry. I had to call it audible. With the 29th pick in the 1999 draft, Demetrius Underwood, defensive end. Now, he fell in the draft due to a number of red flags coming out of Michigan State. After one training camp practice, he left the team and the state of Minnesota as a whole. This was
That's
just days
understandable. You ever been in Minnesota?
Just days before practice, he signed a 5-year deal. He never played a single regular season
I got that bread. I'm out, bitch.
or preseason game
Nah.
with the team, and they chose him in the first round. He had a couple run-ins with some other teams, but he never really panned out. Didn't really play much ever. But starting in 2002, he served several stints in jail for aggravated robbery, assault on public servants, and evading arrests.
I'm not going to play football. I'm going to just rob.
That was
that's
that
a
was the
bust.
same people too.
So, I mean, I'm sorry that doesn't meet the criteria, but goddamn.
Hey, Andre Johnson did the same thing to the Skins. Not the receiver, the lineman. He got drafted and said, nah.
Nah, I'd rather rob people.
Yeah.
Let's get to football T. We'll just move along. Our version of Hot Topics will start first in the world of retirements. One expected, one unexpected. Antonio Gates retired from his illustrious career with the San Diego and Los Angeles Chargers. I think he did play not this previous season, but the season before he played for them. And then we have Luke Kuechly, who at the tender age of 28, decided to hang up his cleats.
It ain't tender.
We'll start with Antonio. My question for you guys, what is his legacy? Where does he finish among all-time tight ends? And I'll start with you, Kev. What do you feel like is the legacy of Antonio Gates?
Revolutionary. One of the many now tight ends who had a basketball background, translated their skills into the tight end position, the NFL. The Jason Witten reference kind of got me got me thinking which one of them is better. Put race aside, which one is better? I'm not sure, but I think
Let's not.
I think Antonio Gates is top 5.
Top 5. Redo.
I can agree with that. He was the first one that I saw play when he ran up the field, looked like he was doing a post move.
Yeah.
He was the first one that looked like he was playing basketball.
He also went also at the top of his route would give you the crossover.
Yes.
Shoulder shake.
Like,
Yeah.
he thought you could see him visualizing the basketball court, and it changed the game because, like, I don't think he was the first basketball player to play tight end.
Tony Gonzalez.
Right. But he was the one most people talk about the most
Right.
as a basketball player playing tight end.
Right.
And I do believe he's top 5 all time
That.
as of right now.
I would say he's the top 5 pass catching tight end. He didn't block.
Give
at
me
all.
a touchdown, baby.
But yeah, he getting the fucking end zone.
Yeah.
But I think, and we talked about this yesterday, he will be the 17th undrafted Hall of Famer.
Wow.
And the last one since John Randall.
There's a great story out there with him and Nick Saban. Look it up when you have a moment. But basically, it just goes to show you how great coaches are. Because Nick Saban told him back at Michigan State that he was a first-round pick, but Antonio Gates wanted to play basketball instead, so he ended up at Kent State.
Hooper die, baby.
Luke Kuechly, my question for you guys, Great linebacker for Carolina. It's a huge loss for that organization. But good on him for thinking about his future and his life. Did he do enough to make the call to the Hall of Fame, though, guys? I'll start with you, Redo.
I don't think so.
Interesting.
Mainly my thing is, but this is a personal thing for me. I've always talked about the difference between great and greatness. People can be great, not great in greatness, greatest. People can be great in short bursts. The greatest were great over long periods of time, longer than anyone else. And I know, people have their own Hall of Fame criteria, but for me, the Hall of Fame should always be someone who was one of the best for the longest period of time. And for someone to bow out, which more power to you, that's fine. But Hall of Fame, I wouldn't put him there, just because of that.
Dad?
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna cut Devin off because he cut me off earlier. I'm agree with Omar. I mean, Luke was great to watch in prime time. But again, I agree with Omar. I don't know if he did enough to be put in that position. I mean, I think I walked to that point a lot quicker than you drove there, but I agree with you.
He dropping all
BB guns everywhere. Huh?
All right, Kev. Okay, so you guys say this. I want to throw something at you. Player A, player B. We see these in articles a lot. Player A, 125 games played, 5 years first team All-Pro, 8 Pro Bowls, 1 Defensive Player of the Year, 1 Defensive Rookie of the Year. Player B, 119 games, 5 years first team All-Pro, 7 Pro Bowls, 1 Defensive Player of the Year. Player B is a Hall of Famer. Player B is Dick Butkus. Player A is Luke Kuechly. Dad?
Well, that was gonna be what I was gonna say. I mean, he only played 7 years. He was a Pro Bowler 7 times. He has 5 All Pros. You talk about being great for a long period of time. The entire time he played, he was great. Now we'd like to see that go longer, but I mean, at that position, unless you're a freak of nature like Brian Urlacher or Ray Lewis, you're not going to continue to do that past that age.
I thought he was going to say, "Are you use deer antler?"
Oh, okay.
It's just a lot
There's
of
a statute of limitations. There's a statute of limitations on winning, okay? A long time ago.
Continuing with football T, the Cleveland Browns hire Kevin Stefanski. We give a golf clap to Red O. Red O called that a couple of weeks ago. Question for you guys, and I'll ask the AFC North brothers. Will analytics, because to Omar's point a couple of shows ago, Paul DePodesta was involved in the decision-making last round. He got outvoted 4-2. They took Freddie Kitchens. Paul DePodesta leads the charge this time. Kevin Stefanski was the vote last time. Kevin Stefanski is now the coach. A big part of this is analytics being involved. Will analytics make a difference in Cleveland, guys?
It's another one of those football terms that are important but don't mean shit to me. The Browns don't need analytics. They need leadership. Someone that can step in and hold people accountable. So if Stefanski can do that, then they can live up to the expectations of last season. But I think when it comes down to it, that's what they need. Someone that can have some type of presence to hold the ass slappers and the interception throwers and the locker room. Hold them accountable.
Hey, Kevin, what's in that cup, bro?
You wild.
It's from Sweet Green, so you know it's healthy.
I mean, I agree with Kev. It's the first time head coach, right?
Yeah.
First time. Cleveland is just toxic. I mean, anybody who goes there, basically you're set up for failure. So I don't know if analytics gets that. Like, they need an overhaul of aura. Like, they need something new there. So I don't, maybe he could be. I don't know. I don't think analytics would be the reason.
Well, it's interesting you guys talk about leadership. They hired their coach, still don't have a GM. So let us move on to prescriptions. We've only got 3 teams this time. We saved the Ravens for Red O because he was out last week. We've got the Ravens. We've got the Titans who were eliminated. We've got the Packers. Red O, the Ravens had a great year. Listen, kind of came out of the blue about halfway through. I think we were all convinced they were a really good team. What do they need to take the next step for next season?
Well, one, go back to the beginning of our show in the season. I said the Ravens would go as far as Lamar would take them.
You did say that.
Two,
Fuck you laughing at?
Well, I was actually laughing because Devin and I, we were, if you must ask, since we'll have show business on the show, we were going through clips for social media, and we had spotlighted that clip as being one of those where it was a prescient comment by Omar.
number two, thank you for giving me the Ravens. As Kevin said, know your personnel. Listen, they don't need much. Like, I know the segment is called Prescription of the Sick Ones, but, you know, this is a second-year quarterback who destroyed the league this year. This was one of those moments where if they were as the team as they have an out meetings for everybody leaving, they slapping them on the butts. They do the same thing next year. You know, it's not like this is some you can't win every game. Shit just happens. They were at times the best team in the league. And at times Lamar was for a lot of times was the best player in the league. So it's not like they are sick. You know, it's more like take some emergency and hope you don't get sick. As I will think the Baltimore brothers will agree with me, learn how to fucking draft a wide receiver. That's what they need to do.
Is it draft or is it purchase?
Well, they don't know how to draft one, so they're going to have to purchase
Know your personnel.
So, I mean, it's that simple. Like, if you know you can't draft it, then go buy one. And there's going to be something to buy. They don't have a lot of free agent decisions to make. The main one is Matthew Judon. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
But as someone pointed out to me, last year they didn't overpay for Zadarius Smith, right? He went to Green Bay. Are they going to overpay for him? Because he's going to get some money. Do you keep him? I personally think there's a time when you have to keep certain people. But if there's an organizational decision that you don't overpay, then they're going to need to draft somebody. But I think the biggest draft decision will be a replacement for Marshall Yanda, whether he retires or not, because he hasn't made the decision. But once you start talking about it,
You're already done.
it's time to draft a replacement.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what they need to do.
Okay. Dad, you have the Tennessee Titans.
Yes.
They've got some decisions to make.
Yeah, but I think a lot.
They do.
Yeah, but I think it's laid out for them though. They come in with around $55 million right now, depending on how the flexibility of the cap goes. But they could get up to $60 million in cap space, and which is enough to bring back everybody that they think they need from this current roster.
Okay.
But the thing is, they can create more cap space by cutting some veterans and kind of moving on from some of the old guard, like Delaney Walker.
Yeah. Jonnu Smith is ready.
He is ready, and you'd have to pay Delaney almost $7 million, and he was hurt again this year.
Right.
Even though he's
a
been their best player for the last few years, but it's time to move on from that. The real decision is Cameron Wake. What do you do with that? $6 million.
I forgot about him, actually.
You bring him back. Do you restructure? So is that one of the people that you cut to create more space, or do you do one of those other things? Dion Lewis, Ryan Suckup, they're out. They can save $6 million right there. Ryan Suckup was on IR. He didn't even play for them in the playoffs. He's Mr. Irrelevant, so that means you're irrelevant. And their kicker did well enough while during that stretch. They do have 22 free agents that need to be signed, but they're lower tier people that they can kind of cover up, so they don't have to do a massive overhaul. Tannehill played into some money, man. I mean, I think they've already started talking about an extension with him.
He played into a tag.
Well, here's the thing. They went from scoring barely 20 points a game with Mariota to 30 once he got in there. That took that offense to different levels, although he only threw for 90 yards in 2 playoff games, but their game plan was very simple. I think they would look at a Nick Foles type of deal, somewhere between 4 years and 88 to 100, which would fall in between both the transition and the franchise tag. So you can give him some security
Security.
with not doing the fucking with
His
the
people was
tags.
asking for 120.
Well, they need to calm the fuck down.
That's why we
Um,
tag him.
I mean, the thing about, decisions like this, you cannot ignore 4 years of evidence for 9-10 games.
Yeah.
So there's got to be balance there.
He would have to do it again for
and
me.
then you have to be okay with whatever that decision is.
But then so what is the franchise? Like 20,
28, I think.
but that's a
28.
1-year thing.
fair enough. But
Yeah.
I mean, they could do one of those tags, or they could come in between. Like, I mean, we
Right.
saw how Nick Foles
Because he
ended up.
wants multi-years, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But you also, if you give him that stability, we saw what the Kirk Cousins shit happened, in Washington. That was just a shit show every year.
Right.
I think they did that man like 3 times or something like that.
Yeah, just
Um,
prove it one more time, baby.
Right.
Kirk kept doing that shit. And you cut Mariota. His rookie deal is up. That experiment's over. We know that's out. Derrick Henry. He makes the whole thing tick.
Gotta pay the man.
You got to pay him. I think you put him not as the number 1 back, even though he led the league in rushing. I think you put him as 3rd, which puts it at about 4 years, $55 million. But you have to be cautious about that because the top 8 paid running backs in the league, all them motherfuckers would sit on the couch watching the playoffs this year.
Yeah, but do you think he, looking at what happened with the Cowboys, and what they pay Zeke, do you think he goes in and say, nah, put me at 3?
I mean, you're not Zeke.
You're not.
yeah, you're not Zeke.
I think the real question in terms of his payment is what direction do you want to go as a franchise? Like, he went on a 3-4 game run where it was heavy
No, it was
Derrick
8.
Henry. In terms of carries,
Talking about
though,
carries, yeah.
yeah, I'm talking about carries because the last 3-4 games it was we're giving
We're
you
giving you
Derrick
the
Henry,
ball.
and what are you going to do about the defense?
I get that.
That's not a 16. That's not sustainable over 16
But
games.
what you do is you definitely put and invest a lot of money in the O-line.
Mhm. Jack Conklin, which they got to make a decision
and
on.
they absolutely have to make a decision on that. And,
Yeah.
They probably let Dennis Kelly go if
Mhm.
they do that because Kelly is just a swing tackle.
Mhm.
But the way they beat us is they beat us up front. The way they beat New England is they beat them up front and they just rammed it down their throat. Granted, he don't have to get the ball 40 times every game. He's
Right.
not Earl Campbell.
He can't do that.
You can't. But otherwise, if you don't do that and stick with what got you, because let's be honest, nobody expected him to be in the AFC Championship game.
Right.
Then you have to overhaul everything. And who wants to do that when you just were in the AFC Championship game? You got to be smart. Don't overpay.
Well, y'all didn't expect him to be in the AFC Championship game.
Nobody did. They for
Look at
sure
Kevin.
did.
Look
You know,
at
I'm not even
Say, yo,
going there.
Devin, he 2 feet from you. Yo, slap the shit out of him.
I mean, the thing is, you're right. They can't play that for 16 games, but the way they're constructed for January football.
They are. So you got to be, 500 till about the last 3 weeks of the season, and then we go Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
How much is that worth? That's the question.
And the rest of that division ain't much going to change that anyway.
I think we find out where Derek's head is at. That's an important part of the equation.
Well, hopefully it's at the hair wash because he need to wash that. Anyway, you good, Dad?
I'm good, yeah. That's basically it. They overachieved.
I got the Green Bay Packers. This one's real simple for me. I was saying it. I've been saying it the last 3-4 weeks.
Number 2.
Yo, they need a number 2 receiver, like yesterday. And I think they know that. I feel like Aaron Rodgers, I think at least knows that because he was really optimistic coming out of the game this weekend. They got $32 million to spend.
They're
I
young.
think Robbie Anderson would be a great pickup for them. And here's another name. If you decide that you want to, spend, because I think they need to get faster at inside linebacker, you definitely need to draft on the O-line, continue to draft. I think everybody, unless you have a glaring need at quarterback or if you're in a draft position where one of the elite skill players are there, you can never go wrong drafting O-line, D-line. When you look at the success of teams like the Titans, the Colts, the Niners, this was their draft philosophy. On the line of scrimmage, O-line, D-line. So you can never go wrong with that. But if you want to not spend too much money on a number 2 receiver, here's a name for you, and I'm sure the Baltimore brothers will appreciate this, but Brashad Perriman. I think you can get Brashad Perriman for somewhere between $8 to $10 million a year, and even if Aaron Rodgers had him, that would be an upgrade on what they had going into the game this weekend.
There's a
That
lot of
says a
number
lot.
two. There's a lot of number two receivers out there he can get. Like if they really wanted to, they can get one.
So no excuse.
How
And
much is Robbie going to get though?
I think Robbie is. Well, it depends
He's
on.
perfect for them.
It depends on need. I feel like he's somewhere between 15 and 17 million a year.
Because they spent their wad on defense this year.
Right.
They don't have to do that this year.
They need to get. They definitely need to get inside linebackers for sure. They're
can't
good.
stop
They're
the
good
run.
at the second. Yeah, inside linebackers.
Yeah, but they
for
spend
sure.
a lot on. I'm just saying they don't have to spend as much.
That's what. So Corey Littleton is out there. Correa from Tennessee, who played really well in the playoffs. You guys had him initially, but yeah, I think Robbie is probably somewhere between the 15 and 17 million. Antonio Brown, which he's not even worth our time, but is just shit in the bed because there's so many teams that could use a receiver like him, and he's tricking it off. So, Robbie, yeah, I think he's probably really a 12 to 13 million dollar player, but I think 15 to 17 million is somewhere where he lands. Green Bay definitely has the money to do that. But get you a number 2 receiver, invest on the line in the draft, and I think you could be right back in the mix. Let's get to our S. Carter collections. It's been a while. Kev, what you got for us, sir?
All right, good people. For those who don't know, we're taking a Jay-Z bar since he's supposed to have a heavy influence in the NFL this year. I've just seen him snatching phones out of people's hands and apply it to happenings around the league. So tonight, I'm going deep into Blueprint 3, a wonderful song called Reminder. And I quote the God MC, back to back, double plat, I did what you want. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Ain't nothing changed for me except the year it is. I think I have to send you a reminder. Here it is. September 25th of 2019, Mr. Junior Blue asked this wonderful group of gentlemen 2 questions. He asked us, would the Kansas City Chiefs be back in the AFC Championship game this year? And 2, would Patrick Mahomes repeat as MVP? And I think the consensus amongst all of us was, barring any injury or, in Devin's case, unless Lamar Jackson did something insane, that Patrick Mahomes would definitely be the MVP, and we'd at least see them or the Patriots back in the AFC Championship game. And now that we have the Chiefs back in this position, despite the fact that Mahomes did get hurt, I think he missed 3 or 4 games, and nobody really mentioned his name or the Chiefs throughout the regular season. But come playoff time, money time, when the shit matters the most, I think Mahomes sent a reminder out to the NFL the last 2 weeks that he is indeed the best quarterback in football, hands down.
Amen. Before we get out of here, we're not going to make any predictions about the big game because we have a show next week where we can talk in depth about that. But we will quickly sort of just review the conference championship game. I don't think, if I can recall, with the exception of Kevin was on that Packers bandwagon. He died on that hill.
As I always do.
But I think for the most part, what happened this weekend was not really a surprise. Kansas City, 35-24, I believe.
It wasn't that close.
And it really wasn't that
Not
close.
at all.
The only thing that helped was that Tennessee got out to a 10-0 lead.
Yeah.
So, but once Kansas City flipped the scoring trajectory, then that game was over. And then the Niners just came out and absolutely throttled Green Bay, final score being 37-20. I've got 2 questions.
It also wasn't that close.
Right. It was not that close. I've got 2 questions for you guys. The first one, what did you see in those games that you feel like will then translate to what we may see in the Super Bowl? And I'll start with you, Kevin.
The 49ers are going to run the ball. The joke all season has been, hey, yo, if I'm them, I'm running it 45 times. No, I'm running the ball 45 times against the Chiefs because if there's anything that they struggle with, it's stopping the run, and the 49ers are great at it.
Okay.
Simple as physical play, man. 49ers play physical, man. That defense, that they play physical ball. They beat up Green Bay. They made them quit.
Again.
Well, Aaron Rodgers, even
Again.
though when he got drafted and they passed him up, he couldn't play at home. He put it out there. He was going to kick their ass every time. He don't play well in San Francisco. Maybe it's because his family don't come to the games, but he don't.
Oh
But
shit!
he don't play well out there.
Holy shit!
I'm on my own.
Devin, please step in. Okay.
So I think we're all in agreement. It's the run game. I think that the 49ers are going to use the Tecmo Bowl playbook where there's only 4 plays. You know, certain teams, like back in the day, 49ers had 3 pass plays and 1 run on Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah.
It's 4 runs.
On they Bo Jackson.
On the
shit.
Bo Jackson.
It's 4 runs.
All of you guys were all
Get
you
on
know,
the bus running the ball.
your takeaways were all with San Francisco. I think Kansas City, what we see now is that that they have a defense. They have a complementary defense, and heavy emphasis on the word complementary.
Yes.
And also that you are going to have to score a lot of points because they definitely are going to be able to put up some points.
Yep.
Give me one reason why folks should pay attention to this game. You know, the Super Bowl is the time that, you know, you get extra eyes on the game of football, a lot of times just for commercials or because someone's having a Super Bowl party. But from a football game perspective, what's one reason why folks should pay attention, Redo?
Great chess game. You have the high scoring offense of the Chiefs, and then you have that beautiful running game of the 49ers. But we don't know if Garoppolo can put it on his shoulders and win the game. And I think they will play keep away, but that still won't be enough. Can he do it?
Okay.
It's a great reason. It's going to be a great game, in my opinion.
I agree.
Mhm.
Dad?
I'm going to say fresh meat for the simple fact that
Pause.
no pause. Straight up.
Straight up.
There's no Tom Brady, no Big Ben,
Mm.
no Peyton Manning. You know, no
A lot
Aaron
of virgins in
Rodgers.
this game.
No,
Yeah, so-
no black quarterbacks.
Yeah,
That's
we removing that half.
low.
Whoa.
We taking that half away.
When they go
That's
low,
low.
we go lower.
Yeah, I mean, new faces. Tired of seeing all the old guys. 2 teams that should be good for a while because they're all young. I mean, until Patrick Mahomes gets $50 million a year.
That's happening as soon as the season is over.
Win or lose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's exciting to see something different. Like last year's Super Bowl, Rams just shit the bed, and everyone's tired of seeing the Patriots.
Kev?
Well, to piggyback off of what Omar was saying, I think it is a chess game, and like anything in life, it's won before it's played. And I'm looking at the coaches because Mr. Andy Reid, either do it or fucking don't, because we all got places we'd rather be. And for San Francisco, you know, we got the young Kyle Shanahan, and I think he's a perfect parallel for anyone who enjoys the show Succession like I do. Not only does Shanahan look like Kendall Roy, but he's also trying to succeed underneath the shadow of his evil father. And I think he has a great opportunity to do it. Hey, anyone in Baltimore who's still feeling down, we have 3 former Ravens playing in the Super Bowl. Terrell Suggs, Kyle Juszczyk, and Mr. Mostert, all former Ravens. So whoever wins, we still win, guys.
And I
Be
think
positive.
I think Andy Reid needs to channel his 13-year-old self when he played in the NFL Kick Challenge, and he was 8 times bigger than everybody else.
He needs to be bigger than everybody.
Hey,
Yes.
we talk. You talk about Andy Reid. You know, do it or don't. I mean, Kyle got to get that stink from Super Bowl
That's right.
50-something.
28-3. He's got to
Yeah.
get 28-3 off of him.
That's just why he said run it.
I definitely
45 times.
I definitely agree with that, Dev. I would say, listen, and you guys talked about it. I talked about Kansas City on the last question. You guys went with San Francisco. About San Francisco, though, I don't think you realize, or folks may not realize, just how close they were to being 18-0 this year. You had the overtime game with Seattle. You lost on a field goal late, the last second field goal to Baltimore. And then
Didn't they have a couple
the
of those?
loss to Atlanta was off of a challenge review. Remember Julio Jones? They had to review to make sure that he broke the plane. So literally 3 plays away from being 18-0. This is a really good team. There's nothing sexy about any of it. Their D-line is sexy. Take that back. But there aren't these star players at these positions, but they are a really well put together team. Congratulations to John Lynch. And also, full circle moment. We talk about analytics, but in football, the leading analytics team is the San Francisco 49ers. So
And Sherman put Revis in his place this week.
he sure did. So an interesting game. We give you a lot of reasons to look forward to it. We'll talk about it more in depth next week. This has been another episode of 32 Kings Road. As a reminder, follow us everywhere on social media. Also, check out our website, theleagueam.com. Please subscribe to, rate, and share our YouTube channel, League Ambassadors. We only got 2 episodes left in our season. We will see you next week. Cheerio.
We busted in, we broke down the door, we came to win. TLA season 4, it's a whole new game. We the agents of change, whole new scope with a whole new range. It didn't exist, so we built our own lane. We all knew the risk, it's a cold ass game. But first and foremost, we reppin' the fans because we nothing but fans living out our dreams. Crossing the pond with these 32 teams. There's only one road and there's only 5 kings.